There were 7 Republican senators who voted to convict Donald Trump, and now they have to deal with the Republican Party, which has been taken over by Trump supporters. Now, I'll give you some specific examples, starting with Senator Cassidy, who famously had originally believed that the Senate impeachment trial was unconstitutional, and then he voted in favor of the impeachment trial to continue, and then he voted to convict Donald Trump after hearing all of the overwhelming evidence. Now, what was the response from his state's Republican Party? Well, there was a statement released. The executive committee of the Republican Party of Louisiana has unanimously voted to censure Senator Bill Cassidy for his vote cast earlier today to convict former President Donald Trump on the impeachment charge. And Cassidy was asked about it during one of these Sunday show appearances. Here's that exchange.
You are already facing backlash in your home state, as I know you know. The executive committee of the Louisiana GOP voted unanimously to censure you last night. And the chair of the Republican caucus in the Louisiana State House added this. We want to show it right now. Senator Bill Cassidy, you no longer represent the majority of people in Louisiana who recently voted you into office. You are part of the problem with DC. Don't expect a warm welcome when you come home to Louisiana. Your response?
I had the privilege of having the facts before me and being able to spend several days deeply going into those facts. As these facts become more and more out there, if you will, and folks have a chance to look for themselves, more folks will move to where I was. People want to trust. They want to trust their leaders. They want people to be held accountable. Now, I'm attempting to hold President Trump accountable. And that is the trust I have from the people that elected me. And I am very confident that as time passes, people will move to that position.
Now, the Republican voters don't care about the evidence. They don't care how guilty Donald Trump was. Based on how every Republican senator who voted to convict Donald Trump is being treated today, the Republican voters overwhelmingly want to brush any bad behavior that Donald Trump was guilty of under the rug. They don't see it as an issue. They see the rioters at the Capitol as not a big deal. Nothing that was inspired by Donald Trump, even as he was tweeting abusive tweets toward Mike Pence as Mike Pence was being evacuated from the building with his family members, by the way. They don't care. They don't care. The voters don't care. The Republican Party is the party of Trump, and there's no question about it.
Yeah, just to give even more specifics to what Anna was alluding to, Trump knew for a fact at 2:13 that Pence's life was in danger because he was speaking to Republican senators inside the Capitol who were asking him, please call off the rioters. He refused to do that. And then 13 minutes later, tweeted against Pence again to try to get the rioters to take action against Pence. And of course, they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. So that's who Donald Trump is. And that's who the Republican voters are. 68% of them today saying, yes, we actively want Trump to be our leader. Not just we support him, we think he's number one. Oh, he attacked the others and threatened their lives? Love it, we're here for it. So Cassidy is both right and wrong. He's right in that I'm a little bit shocked by it, honestly. Actually did act on principle, and I guess that's because his own life was in danger and he was a little shook by that. But he did the right thing. And it's very rare for any politician to do it, let alone a Republican politician, let alone knowing the consequences. But maybe he doesn't know the consequences, and that's where he's wrong. He says, over time, the Republican voters are gonna come to my position. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, you don't know your voters at all. You're done. So look, the horrific thing is almost all the Republican senators that voted against Trump will eventually lose. And it'll send a clear message. If you are not for tyranny, if you are not for oppressing others, if you are not for violence, Republican voters won't vote for you.
Well, yeah, and look, we have more examples. Let's go to Richard Burr of North Carolina, who is facing censure in his home state. So he also voted to convict Donald Trump in the impeachment trial. And Michael Whately, who is the North Carolina GOP chairman, said this: North Carolina Republicans sent Senator Burr to the United States Senate to uphold the Constitution, and his vote today to convict in a trial that he declared unconstitutional is shocking and disappointing. Now, Burr is not facing re-election. He's gonna retire. So that gave him, I guess, the opportunity to do the right thing. But he's also not the only Republican lawmaker, clearly, who's facing the consequences of doing the right thing. Mitt Romney is also facing censure. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. The Salt Lake Tribune reports that some Utah Republicans have been hoping to censure Romney and have published excerpts of a potential censure motion. Let me give you the details on that. As reported by the Salt Lake Tribune, the motion says Romney failed to, quote, represent the average conservative Utah voter and misrepresented himself as a Republican. It concludes Romney used his senatorial power and influence to undermine Trump, and claims Romney appears to be an agent for the establishment deep state. No, but okay, so here's my question to you, Cenk, and I don't know if you have the answer. I know I don't have the answer. What does this mean for the future of the country, right? Because if half the country, or a little more than 2/3 of the country, I don't know what portion of avid Trump supporters make up the electorate, but it's a lot of people. If they are this unreasonable to the point where they want to protect a president who incited these riots, what do we do? What do we do?
Okay, so I'm gonna answer that. First, let me just fill out the list, because now facing censure are Pat Toomey, another Republican senator that voted to convict, Ben Sasse from Nebraska, another Republican senator voted to convict, and Liz Cheney, who was one of the Republican leaders in the House that called out Donald Trump for his actions and voted to impeach. So almost every major person who voted to convict or impeach Donald Trump in the Republican Party is now facing censure and primaries and eventually expulsion from the Republican Party. If you do not condone violence, the Republican Party is not interested in you. Okay, so now what do we do about it? Well, if we had a competent Democratic Party, we would highlight this over and over and over again. Why? Because it's a branding exercise. And believe it or not, I mean, I talked to somebody today who is Republican supporters, Republican voters who brush this stuff aside because they're so afraid of minorities, okay? And so that's who they are. And so what do you have to do? You have to isolate the third of the country that is never going to get better. They're always gonna hate minorities. They're always gonna wanna oppress them. They're always gonna have fear and hate and loathing and greed. And so it's just a reality. And people just wanna wish it away by going, oh, no, they're not deplorable. They're wonderful people. They're what? I can't tell who's right or who's wrong. I can't tell. Everybody's got legitimate interest. No, you have to isolate the third of the country that is toxic, okay? And make sure that you peel off enough Republican voters so that the Republican Party is dead politically, okay? Why? It's not because like, oh yeah, it's a politics is a blood sport. No, because it's toxic to democracy. It's toxic to the ideals of this country. They literally say if we lose an election, we want a violent reaction and overthrow of democracy. Well, okay, if you want to maintain democracy, you have to make sure that that party cannot win elections. The problem is that the Democratic Party is so afraid of their own shadow, let alone fighting Republicans. Our own leaders, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, as we showed you earlier today, is out there going, I really hope there's a strong Republican Party. How are you gonna beat Republicans if you're cheerleading for them? So you need super strong Democrats to beat these Republicans until there's almost nothing left of the Republican Party. And then another party will emerge that'll be libertarian and conservative, but that will reject violence, support democracy, etc. That is a very long process. Unfortunately, we have a very narrow window. And we don't have strong Democratic leaders to make that happen. That's why the Justice Democrats have to hurry. They have no idea how much they have to hurry, because we have to do this all in 4 impossible years, because another fascist is coming down the pike.
All right, I'm gonna push back a little bit, because I feel like the Republican voters who have remained in the Republican Party and have been loyal to Trump, even after all of this, are not going to be persuaded by any case, regardless of how strong that case is, coming from the Democratic Party. I mean, the more the Democrats have tried to make their case, it doesn't matter how much overwhelming evidence there is. The truth is, it's almost as if like they want to continue supporting Trump no matter what to own the libs. Like there's a part of it that has to do with just wanting to do the opposite of what corporate Democrats are saying, right? Like, I don't know how effective that would be, to be quite honest with you.
So, Anna, a couple of things. So first of all, yes, Republican voters, they're obsessed with quote unquote owning the libs. And what does that mean, by the way? That's a translation for I loathe the others. I hate liberals, i.e. black people, all other minorities, women, and all other people that I consider to be liberals. I hate them so much that honestly, I'll own myself. I'll destroy the country. I'll do anything because of my fear and loathing of the others. Okay, so that's honest talk about who those Republican voters are. Now, do you need the current corporate Democratic strategy is I'm going to try to peel away 2% of those voters in the suburbs, and I'm going to sacrifice my own voter turnout and appealing to independents to get that 2%. Is that the correct strategy? Of course not. Of course not. Do you know how much Joe Biden won by in this election? I was wrong. I was saying 44,000. It's actually under 43,000 votes in 3 states. 43,000 votes, and Trump wins again. That's how close this election was, because of the moronic strategy of let's try to be more like the Republicans so we can get 2% of them to flip. No, number one, if Democrats turn out, we win. We have more Democrats than Republicans in this country. So you have to appeal to your own base, you morons, you blithering idiots. That's what Republicans do, and everybody cheers. They're like, oh, well, look, they're savvy the way they appeal to their base. They got to appeal to their base. Democrats should never appeal to their base. They say it with a straight face. Number two, independents decide the elections. Voter turnout and independents decide. So what do you do with independents? You pummel the Republican brand. They're against America. You want to vote for that un-American party? Okay, the last thing is actually deliver. If you deliver, all these problems go away. You increase the minimum wage, that affects 33 million Americans. It gives them a combined $92 billion raise every year. Guess what happens if you get a $92 billion raise in a big picture sense? You like the party who gave it to you. It's not that complicated, and you go out and vote for them. And the other thing they could do, which they'll never do because they're corrupt, is you pass Medicare for all. Everyone has free healthcare. Do you have any idea how many independents would become Democrats forever if we did that? But of course, Democrats love to punch themselves in the face. So that is how you could win this country, and relatively easily. But they won't do it because they're obsessed with corruption and serving their donors, and they hate their own voters.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.